I am Will. I moved to Bel-Air with my aunt and uncle, and immediately I noticed the family was very clean looking, unlike my mom who was always looking like shit. And I didn't know many girls in Philly. Anyway, the family was great and I had lots of food and new friends. One day, Carlton was walking in the house and I loved how he smelled cause he wore aftershave. So I told him to come here cause the dryer needed to be fixed or something, but I made it up. And when he was in the hallway towards the dryer room, I elbowed his temple and he slammed against the wall and fell to the floor and wouldn't get up. I said, yo Carlton, get up, it was just a joke! But he didn't move. So I went upstairs and ate some vanilla cookies they had sitting around to think of my plan. And then the butler guy came in, I forgot his name because I was so tense, and he said, don't eat cookies cause it will spoil my dinner. So I threw the cookies in his face and ran upstairs. Ban me please. Upstairs I saw Hillary's room was open, but I ignored that and went to the bathroom and took a good shit cause of the vanilla cookies and stuff. So then I realized, oh fuck, I left Carlton downstairs and it's been like 10 to 15 minutes. So I quickly got up with the shit hanging from my ass that looked like a tail cause it was the color of my skin. But if I had eaten Fruity Pebbles, it would have been green and people would have noticed. But anyway, I ran downstairs and Carlton wasn't on the floor anymore. When I went to find Carlton, I found him in the kitchen with an ice pack on his head and he said, Will, why did you do that? And I said, I tripped, and he believed me. So I told him to come upstairs after he feels better. As he was walking up the stairs behind me, I turned around and backed into him so the shit hanging as tail from my ass got on his shirt, but he backed up too far and Carlton fell down the stairs. I turned around and saw that he wasn't moving again, but I expected that he would be in the kitchen again with another ice. This time, I went into Hillary's room, but she wasn't there, so I tried to go back to the bathroom, but it was locked, and I said, yo, open up, and Hillary was inside, so I was like, yo, it's the police, and I kicked the door open, but it didn't open, and I really hurt my leg. So I was gonna get revenge for that, and I really had to pee, so I lied down on the floor sideways, and pulled my penis till it got a little longer, and stuck it under the crack of the door, and started to pee. And Hillary was screaming, Will, not again! And I started to do shit too, but my butt was facing the other way, so I got on the carpet and not in the bathroom. Anyway, Carlton came upstairs like I expected, and he saw me and kind of sighed, and he went to his room. So I got up and went to his room and banged open the door and asked him why he sighed. And he explained it, and then he was in his underwear cause it was really hot that day. So I found a basketball in his closet and I said, yo, catch! And threw it on his head, and he fell back on his bed and didn't move. I went to Ashley's room and she was wearing a hat backwards, so I told her that was right. And then Hillary finally left the bathroom, so I went in, but I had no pee or shit anymore. So I came in again, but almost slipped on the floor cause the stupid Hillary didn't clean while she was in there. Anyway, I went to her room and she was in towel and she was taking it off, and I was behind her and she could see me, so I kicked her on the spine above her ass, and she fell onto her bed screaming, Will! And then I left the room and came back and pretending I just walked in, and I said, yo, what's wrong? And she said, Will, you kicked me in the back. And I said, no. And then I ran to Carlton's room and got the basketball and brought it back to her room and said, yo, look, I was playing b-ball. And she turned around with the towel off to look at the b-ball. And I said, see, yo, catch. And I threw it at her face and her nose totally exploded. I walked out of the room and saw that Ashley was in her room listening to music, and then the call came from downstairs. Dinner is ready, the butler said. So I went downstairs ahead of everyone and he served some big bird. At the table, Uncle asked Hillary what happened to her nose, and Auntie asked Constantine, or whatever his name is, what he did the whole day, and he said he could remember. And before Hillary could tell that I had thrown a basketball in her face, I ran over the table and whispered to her that I'd do any favor for her if she didn't tell. So she didn't tell, and Uncle said, Will, what did you say to her? And I said, a secret. Anyway, I finished my meal, and Uncle said, there are no secrets among family in this house. And I said, what about you and Carlton? And laughed and ran upstairs, but before I got to the top stair, I went, yo! Anyway, everyone was settling down, and Uncle and Auntie were in the rooms, and everyone's in the rooms. So I went downstairs to the butler's room, and he was watching TV with only his top on. And I said, yo, what's up? And he said, just watching TV, Mr. Will. And I said, your cock looks like a raisin. But I kicked his TV like a horse, and pulled up his shirt, and bit his stomach really hard till blood came out, and he screamed. And I left. Anyway, is this story boring you, or should I continue? Cause it's nighttime in Bel-Air, and everyone's in their rooms. So anyway, I go upstairs and it's getting late, so I get ready to sleep, and I see that Auntie goes to the bathroom upstairs, so I bust in her room to surprise Uncle, and I see his huge fat body naked on the bed belly up. So I body slam on top of him, and he screams, Will! And I can't find his balls or penis under all his fat, so I grab his face with my feet and squeeze really hard. And he said, Will! But it sounded more like and then his wife comes in and says, Will, what are you doing? Will, stop! And I tell her to back off cause he needs the exercise, and then when I'm pushing her away, I rip off her nightgown thing, and she's there and has big boobs. My penis goes boing, and I get off Uncle and push her, and the window was open behind her, and she falls out. But she doesn't fall all the way down, she's hanging on with a hand and sharp nails. So then, on her fingers, I rub my penis back and forth, and imagine it's making musical sounds. And then I think of a really good rap. Yo, I moved to Bel-Air and I can't get you all to hear about it. My name is Will and I'm ill with the skill to rhyme, and it ain't a crime, it's a sublime, and my child was in a war with the enemy, and I said, yo, don't tell him to the enemy. And then I left the room, the rap still going through my head, and I see Ashley's room is open, and she's on her bed and she's crying. So I say, yo Ashley, what's up? And before she can look up, I slap her so hard that the lights in the room flicker on and off. Lol. Well, she ain't crying now. So I left the room and went to Hillary's room. But she wasn't there. So I ran downstairs because I heard the fridge open, and she was there in a long t-shirt looking for a nighttime snack. So I said, yo Hillary. And she said, what, Will? I said, nothing, and went to control my laughter and ran upstairs. I went to check on Uncle and Auntie, and Uncle was trying to roll out of the bed, and Auntie was still holding on. So I said, yo Uncle, let me help. But when I tried to get my hands under him, he rolled towards me and I heard cracking noises. And then I felt it, and I screamed so big that my mouth felt like it was gonna tear. I pulled out my broken hands limp, and already started to swell, and I couldn't feel anything, so I ran out of the room to tell Carlton what happened. He said he read a book on Reiki healing, and he snapped my hands back into place, so to test it, I slapped him, and they were back. And then Hillary came in and said, Will, I want to talk to you about that favor you promised. And so we went back to her room, and she took off her t-shirt and said, Will, I want you to stop being such a menace. And I said, that's one thing I can't do. And I jumped and kicked her in the neck and fell on my hip. She was gasping for air, and I dragged myself back to Carlton to fix my hip. And I did. And to test it this time, I did a hula dance and went to Ashley's room. I saw she was doing homework on her desk or writing something, so I went to her bed and shat on it and sneaked out of the room. Hillary ran out of her room naked and said, I'm telling Dad! And I said, go ahead and tell the fat fuck. And anyway, I went up behind her, and Uncle had gotten up and was helping Annie back inside her room, and everyone was naked in there, so I left and slammed the door and said, where's some clothes, you fuckers? But I still wasn't wearing pants, so I remembered the butler and went downstairs. He was bandaging his stomach bite wound, so I kept slapping his hand so he couldn't finish. And then I took one of the shots from the smashed TV that a horse kicked and said, yo bro, watch out, there's an ant on your face. And I threw the shot in his face and then regretted that I said ant and not spider. And then I took the shot out of his face and said, yo, it's a spider, sorry, not an ant. Oh no, it's crawling in your nose. So I stuck the shot in his nose and then heard some commotion upstairs, so I pulled it out sideways really quick and the butler screamed. And I ran upstairs and dropped the shot on the stairs and went to Ashley's room where she was getting undressed to get in her sleep clothes, and she had a little body, so I picked her up by the waist and threw her across the room towards the wall, but it was too high, and she hit the room light at the roof and shattered it. I ran to Hillary's room and saw she wasn't there, and then I went to Carlton and said, it's time for a family meeting, so I got him up and I took him to Uncle's room with everyone in it except Ashley and the butler. I said, yo, wait here, and ran back downstairs, but the shirt got in my foot and it really hurt, so I pulled it out. And then I got Butler, and then I got Ashley, and everyone, I put them in the room. And I said, one final touch, and I ran to Hillary's room and got the basketball and brought it back and then threw it really hard, and it hit Uncle's face and it fell over on Carlton's leg and crushed it, and Uncle's nose was bleeding. And I bent Auntie over and she farted in my eye, so I judo chopped her anus but didn't do anything. So I kicked her in between her butt cheeks and she screamed and fell forward and slammed her head on a nightstand table that held the lamp, and then I picked up the lamp and turned the light off and pulled out the cord and set it back on the table because the room light was on. Why waste electricity? And then I yawned and went to my room and went to sleep. The end. But anyway, I ran downstairs and I found him in the kitchen. Oh, wrong line. I went to Ashley, and she said, Will, you kicked me in the back. And I said, no. And then I ran to Carlton's room and got the basketball and brought it back to her room and said, yo, look, I was playing b-ball. And she turned around with the towel after look at the b-ball and I said, see, yo, catch. And I threw it at the... So she didn't tell, and Uncle said, Will, what did you say to her? And I said, a secret. Anyway, I finished my meal, and Uncle said, there are no secrets and more family in this house. And I said, what about you and Carlton? And left and ran upstairs. But before I got to the top of the stair, I went, yo, anyway. And I said, yo, what's up? And he said, just watching TV, Mr. Will. And I said, your cock looks like a raisin. But I kicked his TV like a horse and pulled up his shirt and bit his stomach really hard. So then on the fingers, I rubbed my penis back and forth, and imagine it's like, I went to check on Uncle and Auntie, and Uncle was trying to look out the... And then Hillary came in and said, well, I want to talk to you about that So I stuck the shot in his nose and then heard some commotion upstairs. So I pulled it outside with really quickly and the butler screamed. And I ran upstairs and dropped the shot on the stairs and without... And I said, one final touch, and I ran to Hillary's room and got the basketball and brought it back and then... Yeah.